Hi again, Greg Bell of the News Tribune here at CenturyLink Field in Seattle after the Seahawks rally past the Indianapolis Colts. They won 46-18, so it looks like they blew them out. They were down 15-10 in the third quarter. They had been booed off the field in the first half that was so ugly, no one should have had to pay for it. The offense was malfunctioning. The defense gave up 205 yards in that first half, a season high. And then Russell Wilson took off and did a play only he does. Improvisational, gets away from the rush that ended up sacking him 3 times and hitting 5 other times. Eluded a defender at the line of scrimmage, approached the safety at about the 3-yard line, got barrel rolled with a right shoulder by the safety into his thighs, but he kept running. Instead of sliding, instead of going down, he bowled ahead. Wilson actually ran through the safety, past the goal line for a touchdown. Then he got up, bowled through another Colts defender who was standing in his way, punched, slammed the ball on the ground, ran through his teammate Paul Richardson, and then threw a haymaker air punch with his right arm. Rare show of emotion for the usually stoic, almost senatorial quarterback. It's the second time in as many weekends he's done this. Last weekend in Nashville, he got up in front of a team meeting and he was very emotional and very unguarded and unscripted, talking about why the Seahawks should stay in the locker room and do something unified, protesting minority treatment and the need for police reform in this country. And Richard Sherman said he was really impressed by that. The whole Seahawks team was impressed tonight by his run and his emotion. Doug Baldwin said, "That's the Russell we want to see." Baldwin said he hadn't seen it in 3 years, since the 2014 game in St. Louis against the Rams on a run down the sidelines when he showed similar emotion and delivering a hit rather than avoiding it. Needless to say, it charged up the entire team. They went ahead 18-15. The Colts ended up rallying back for a tying field goal, and then it became the fringe night show for the Seahawks. The last players on the roster: J.D. McKissic, 2 touchdowns in the second half. Marcus Smith, former first-round pick from the Philadelphia Eagles. The Seahawks got off the scrap heap this summer, forces a sack by hitting Jacoby Brissett, the Colts quarterback, in the third quarter right after McKissic's first carry of the season went for a 30-yard touchdown. Smith hits him, ball loose. Bobby Wagner picks the ball up, returns it for a touchdown. 2 touchdowns in 13 seconds, and the game was over. Seahawks added another McKissic score on a pass here to this end zone down the right sideline. He was playing only because C.J. Prosise has his 6th injury in 17 months with the Seahawks. An ankle injury had him inactive tonight. Then Chris Carson, the lead rookie running back. You guys all saw the replays. If you didn't, you might not want to watch. It looks grotesque. A significant ankle injury. After the game, Pete Carroll said he wasn't sure whether Carson would need surgery. But Thomas Rawls now comes to the fore. Rawls wasn't even active tonight. Like Eddie Lacy 2 weeks ago, Rawls was a healthy scratch for his first time in his career. Eddie Lacy ended up getting 12 carries, some of those as a closer back to protect the lead late in the game. Lacy, of course, only had 5 carries entering this game. So now the Seahawks running back situation without Carson, it looks like he's going to be out a significant amount of time. You're going to have an angry Thomas Rawls. The Seahawks are going to have to get him back on board after making him a healthy scratch tonight and asking him to share in this lead role. Where does J.D. McKissic fit in? He showed tonight he is explosive. Doug Baldwin and Richard Sherman said they've been lobbying Carroll for weeks to get him in for all he can do in practices. They got him off waivers at the end of last year with Atlanta. This was only his 3rd game with the Seahawks and first this year. How big is his role now? Does Eddie Lacy become more of the lead back? By default almost, because he was inactive 2 weeks ago. So it goes for the Seahawks in their running game. They got it going a little bit in the second half. They ended up with 195 yards, I think it was, rushing. 194 yards rushing, 52 by Lacy on 11 carries, 42 by Carson on 12 carries before he got hurt. The defense, as I said, gave up 205 yards in the first half, 32 in the second half when the Colts had to throw. The Seahawks knew it. Michael Bennett went crazy in the defensive line, getting in the Colts backfield and pounding Brissett. And it looked more like the Seahawks defense because they had the lead. So, through it all, 2-2, heading to Los Angeles next week against the 3-1 Rams for a game for the early lead in the NFC West. Scary locker room situation after the game. Reese Odiombo was actually on his back on the floor. Paramedics rushed in. and the team doctors rushed in. He had trouble breathing. He got hit during the game, left in the chest, left the game briefly at the end of a drive, never missed a play, and came back in and finished the game. Then he had trouble breathing after the game. Paramedics ended up, from the Seattle Fire Department, ended up coming in the locker room and putting him on a stretcher and taking him to a hospital where he is tonight for observation. Pete Carroll said that Odiombo, the starting left tackle, all his signs were stable. They're not sure what caused the shortness of breath and trouble breathing, but they don't think it's a serious injury. It's serious enough, though, that paramedics took him to the hospital, and the whole team was scared watching the scene unfold. I'll have updates on Chris Carson's injury tomorrow. You can read all my coverage on thenewstribune.com online and, of course, on Twitter @GBellSeattle. Thanks for watching.